Hi, it's Dominic from the msguide.com. Today in the UK is Thursday and it's part of MS Awareness Week. I was reflecting on what I could do for the channel for MS Awareness Week, and I was thinking about family. And then it dawned on me, mostly because I'm a bloke and we don't do this stuff, I have never ever in 28 years had a proper conversation with my brother just to see what he thinks and how he understands it and how he interprets it about my MS. So I thought I'd rectify that. I called him up. He agreed to do it. And we're going to start now. So hi, everybody. This is Chris, my brother, who I am now going to interrogate about what he thinks about things. And I'll just turn it over to you, Chris, to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm Dominic's brother. I've known him for 50 odd years. Pulled him out of hospital a few times, things like that. So if there's anything that you want to know, just let me know on Twitter and I can fill you in all the dirt of Dominic. But yeah, here today really just to have a chat with Dom, because I think he's informed me it's MS Awareness Week. So now I'm aware.
Yes. As I said in the introduction, I don't know how this video is going to go. Hopefully I'll be able to edit out anything Chris says that might land me in trouble. So anyway, Chris, I was diagnosed, I think it was 94 when I was living in Windsor. You were in the UK at the same time because we're both half Canadian and we've both lived sometimes in Canada and sometimes here. And I guess I was working in the pharmaceutical industry at the time. Were you in the pharma industry at the time?
Yeah, I started back in 94. I'd actually started in the pharma industry there. So,
okay. And you still take their money, don't you?
I still take the money of the pharma industry, having done sort of various things over the years. It's a good industry. I think, they do a lot, as you'll know, medicines for things like that. I think, in the past, there's probably been things where, both pharma and, the doctors we dealt with had probably, changed their behaviors since then, which I think is a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, these days, it's my understanding is it's far more transparent and regulated, and the old sort of cliches of taking the doctor out to supper doesn't exist anymore.
You should see the paperwork we have to do just to do a meeting kind of thing, or if somebody's, if doctors are, speaking for the industry, the amount of due diligence and contracting and stuff that goes on, and it's all sort of, I think I'd like to think it's fairly regulated above board. It's all, the transparency declarations and things like that now. So yeah, it's changed, but I think it's for the better.
Yeah, I recently spoke at an industry event from a patient point of view, and that wasn't shy of paperwork and forms and legal agreements and God.
Yes.
So yeah, exactly. So there's people like you that do it to people like me, I see. So in many ways, I don't remember a huge amount about that time. I don't know if it's the blows to the head or the MS or what, but talk me through it from your point of view, what you remember.
I don't remember you ever sort of coming out and sort of saying, sitting me down and going, look, I've got to tell you, I've got this. I mean, I think you'd mentioned before, joking about, wheelchairs and, could you make off-road wheelchairs and things like that. And, but then also, there's things that, at one point you sort of sent me a sort of, file sort of labeled funeral kind of thing, if I die, this is what I want. And then also the sort of promise that, I will book you the one-way ticket to Switzerland if it all goes horribly wrong at this end kind of thing. But that was some of the sort of conversations we've had over the years. But, a lot of it has been, well, we're doing something and, well, I can't do this because of the fatigue and the MS. And, and to be honest, sometimes it came across as a bit of an excuse when you don't really understand it kind of thing. You're looking at it from my point of view and you're kind of going, well, you're well enough to go off and do stupid stuff on a motorbike or stupid stuff on a climbing wall or stupid stuff on a road bike or stupid stuff on a mountain bike. There's a bit of a thing, by the way. It's sort of, it didn't seem to stop you doing certain things, but then clearly there's the bits when you're active and you make poor decisions, and then you're tired and you make poor decisions.
Yeah, well, it's I like the way the word stupid featured an awful lot in that. But I mean, you're right. It's hard to explain to other people because I think I was doing it unconsciously then, but you are having to limit how you spend your time. So if you have an activity, say climbing, that you enjoy, and you spend all your energy doing that, then you don't have any for anything else. And you're saying to people no, and you don't want to have to explain yourself the whole time. But yeah, it can come off cross as a little bit, off
Well,
it.
and if anybody ever said to you, you should be doing that, you'd get quite cross and grumpy and sort of say, no, I can, I'm fine, and sort of, not wanting to sort of say, maybe actually I shouldn't push myself to do that, and maybe, do you want to be riding motorbikes fast? Because actually you don't know whether any of that was, as a result of, did your MS maybe, you weren't as sharp with some of these things, and maybe that's why over that period of years you seem to have gone through a few motorbikes and cars and bicycles, and did it affect your judgment and your decision making sometimes? Is that, or was it a bit of fatigue that just switched you off at that particular time?
Or I think you're correct that can be it. Or denial has served me as a tool extremely well over the years. And you don't like to hear or think about anything to do with the MS. And certainly when I was younger, now I notice it a lot more. But it was almost a determination to just push and show I wasn't. And I would argue that some of those things, like, well, young men crash cars, or they tend to, which is why the insurance premiums are so high.
You were that young at the top for all of them, I'd say.
Yeah, and young men tend to, should we say, as a breed, tend to be less risk averse than many people. But it was the determination that I was going to do things, and sometimes you almost try too hard because you're damn well going to show that you can do something. So I'm not always sure it had the best outcomes, because some things I think possibly, other things were just plain stupid on my part. There was no MS involved in being plain stupid. It was just over ambitious, too much ego, too much. What did they say? It's when your ambition outstrips your talent.
Yes.
So exactly. But yeah, you have very kindly mocked me up a few times. One that I realized was definitely MS. I was when I was pushing it hard on my bicycle, and you don't realize how the incredible effort is creating fatigue, which is impairing your judgment. So when I put my head down and tried to pedal really, really fast for the lights that I thought I could definitely hit before they changed, and all the traffic stopped while I had my head down, and I promptly cycled into a car, and that was a trip to hospital, just to sort of for all the various cuts and bruises and stuff. But
I was going to say, I've got a picture of it here. It was, I remember that phone call, because that phone call was, can you come pick my bike up from A&E, was the gist of the phone call, because you had quite an expensive titanium road bike, and apparently you'd had a discussion with the ambulance about if it wasn't going, you weren't going. And then I remember
I dug my heels in, and then the policeman who had a look at it said, "Take it. It's too nice to leave here."
Yeah, to mock you and pick up your helmet and your bicycle kind of thing, and sort of take that home for you. But
absolutely, it was quite that. I think around that time, it's when it starts sort of turning in my head, thinking, the seed of doubt is injected, and you're wondering if. Or you're having to acknowledge that it may be, should we say, an issue when you're absolutely trying to push things to the limit, and maybe you should take your limit and move it back a little bit.
And I think those discussions, you did not like those discussions, because I think I had those discussions with you, and I think other people like Dave and people like that might have suggested things like that. And there was this sort of stubborn Dominic bit that came out, which was, "You can't tell me what to do," or words to that effect.
Yeah, I think they were less polite, but
yeah, and I think everybody was kind of doing it in your best interest sometimes, and I think you didn't want to, we weren't saying do that. I mean, I did suggest at one point you could get an e-bike and go out and continue cycling, and I think that was met with very sort of that kind of reaction and rude words.
Even now.
But the thing was, it depends. It's not a disability to ride an e-bike. I ride an e-bike because I've got a knackered hip and things like that. And it's good fun. The other thing is they're good fun, and they let you do that. Lots of people who have but there's this whole suggestion of it might let you to continue cycling, and you just went, no, I'm not even having that. So there's almost this stubborn streak in you that saying, this may enable you to sort of keep doing things you want to do, keep cycling kind of thing. But once you've sort of drawn that, you will not reconsider that. And I don't know what it is. There's no sort of, once you've made that commitment, that's it for you. Even if it's like, right, I'm going to just cut off another digit. I'm not going to cut off another digit. It's like,
the way I've coped with MS is largely not acknowledging it and dealing with it. And I mean, starting the guide was a big enough step, and several people had to sort of boot me in this direction. And I wasn't comfortable with it initially. But the thought of ringing you up and saying, will you come on the guide and talk about it, even a couple of months ago, wouldn't have crossed my mind. But it,
No, but but I also think, there's times when I went to one of your consultant appointments with you because you wanted to sort of, somebody to sort of sit there and ask some of the questions and potentially get a slightly different view.
I did not feel right at that time. I just all felt it was a bit, what's the word, discombobulating. And I knew that you could sort of sit there as a trusted person. It's like, right, okay, I need you to sort of keep me honest, keep them honest, reinterpret for me. I mean, it's absolutely crucial having somebody to come with you, I think.
Well, and I think this is something, I have years of experience of dealing with doctors, and from my point of view, but also personally and professionally, my son was born 15 weeks premature, as kind of thing. And when you're in there, and you do get a lot of medical professionals, who sort of almost sort of pat you on the head and sort of say, "Don't worry yourself about that." It's like, well, no, treat me like an adult, and actually I understand that, and without sort of being rude to them, they are a medical professional, but if you don't ask them the questions, they're not always that good at explaining to you. I mean, I remember having a conversation with a registrar about my son looking at a chart with oxygen levels over time kind of thing. And she turned around to me and she said, "Don't worry." She said, "This isn't mathematics." And I pointed at the chart and went, that bit is. Yeah. And I think it wasn't trying to be rude to her, but I think, if you let somebody talk to you in that way, which is almost, there's a tendency to be patronizing and condescending. Now, the good doctors are not like that. Yeah. But, if you just sit there and let them sort of, talk to you kind of thing. I mean, that appointment, if you'd gone in there feeling a little bit, not with it kind of thing, they would have just, made you do all that stuff that they were doing, done it, gone, "Don't worry, Dominic, off you go. We'll see you in a bit," kind of thing.
I can't recall the appointment particularly, but I seem to recall you kind of held his feet to the fire and just ensured that certain things were clarified, which is what I needed. And I'm hugely grateful for that, because I don't know, because of your experience, I just knew that was going to be something that you could do. And I think a lot of patients are worried about not being able to articulate it properly, and they're worried that they're going to get that sort of treatment. Don't worry, it's not mathematics to them.
Well, I've sort of, you've sort of asked me about things in the past, and I can send you a link to it because I know where some of this information is, and I think you probably come to me a bit more now for some of the stuff like that.
Other things I'm involved in, and then wanted to know that because I know you're kind of the way that I can access some of that. But back to the MS for a moment. What did you ever think? Was it ever a concern, for example, that is this hereditary? Will I get it, or will my boys get it, or etc. Sort of family-wise, affecting the family, I guess.
Well, not really. I mean, I think if I've ever sort of if I've ever had some medical discussions with the doctor about something from me, I have to disclose there's MS in the family, but I don't I really haven't looked into that much. But I'm not sure if it's hereditary, if there's any genetic things or stuff like that, or whether it's something to do. You're probably more up to speed on that than I am, but I suppose it's never hit home that much because I've seen you probably more disabled, if you want to put it that way, from your injuries.
From my own endeavors.
Yeah, from your own endeavors, sort of breaking your hip and then they make your legs the same length and then you walk funny with a cane for a bit. Now, were you walking funny with a cane because that's your hip or that's the MS? And I know you have to spend a lot of money on expensive glasses and stuff like that. I just have to have them because I'm getting old. But, so yes, I hear about that kind of thing. But you don't appear disabled. So if you got out of the car, out of a disabled spot, you'd be one of those people that people glare at because, you get out and stroll off kind of thing.
I'd hit them with my stick.
You'd almost need to sort of carry a stick and limp to sort of make it, I need a disabled badge. But it may be that at times, you might feel really knackered or you might be struggling to walk, but, you have a bit of a limp that sort of probably comes with, broken ankles, broken shoulders, broken hips kind of thing. And I've never sort of seen you have to sit in a wheelchair, and do that. And I know your sort of views of, getting to a certain point, like a lot of people, what happens at that point. But, that's almost like, you've mentioned that to me, but like I said, I've never seen you disabled, as it were, from the MS.
I mean, we've joked about it, and I've always talked about it in a jokey form. I mean, there's two aspects to that. Planning one's own sort of funeral and things like that as a general thing, I suppose, as you age, when you were 20, it doesn't cross your mind. But now I just think I would forget the MS. I would hate to leave a messy set of affairs behind. And now that my daughter is 18, you're pretty much absolved of the responsibility because the file's been put into her name. But the whole secondary thing about a one-way trip.
Do I have to send her the pillow?
Yeah, and the chloroform. But the whole thing about a one-way trip to Switzerland, I still maintain that essentially my level would be, if I couldn't change my own nappy, I'm not sure I'd be thrilled about the quality of my life. But that's doesn't look like it's ever going to be an issue for me. You never know. It's I
think the outside view was you did enough stupid stuff. You were going to, that wasn't going to become an issue. There was probably more of a chance of you going, 90 miles an hour on a motorbike up, up something, or falling off a cliff, climbing, or doing, getting run over on your bike, than there was of you getting old enough for MS to be a concern.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was for quite some time. I sort of figured broadly, without being fatalistic, that there was a reasonable chance that I might not make it to the age where it became an issue in and of itself, because I was having quite a good time. Motorbikes, I mean, that's, you're essentially a mobile organ donor, aren't you? But it's, I remember you had a motorbike before me. You took me on yours, and I thought, that's it. I'm definitely doing this. And I went and got my bike license. But no matter, I mean, the thing with motorbikes is no matter how careful you are, even if somebody else is an idiot, you're soft and pink and you haven't got a metal cage around you. And now, I mean, for me, it's out of the question. So I try to focus on the fond memories of doing things, climbing motorbikes, etc., bicycling, where I just think it's not, I've had to lower my goals, if you like, or what I can do. But then, I still, I'm less likely to require your services to pick me up from hospital from walking related injuries. It's going to be a bad blister, but
because we were going to do the bike ride we were going to do to raise funds was, for some reason, you and Dave had fixed gear bikes and then convinced me that it'd be a good idea to get one, and then decided that we were going to do the London to Brussels in 24 hours because nobody ever done it on the fixed gear.
And raise money for the MS unit at the hospital.
And and I was going to raise money for the special care baby unit at the JR.
Yeah,
and then you managed to.
I may have gone out on a trend.
This has got to stay in the video because he managed to fall off his bike because he ate a banana and he threw the banana skin away, and from throwing a banana skin off his bike, managed to break your collarbone and a femoral neck fracture at the same time on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, with quite a lot of skid marks as well. But I would say
nobody else around.
No, so I put that down to MS now with hindsight. I'd finished a really hard hill climb, and on a fixed gear bike, you can't mince around. You just have to sort of stand up and pedal harder. So I was feeling massively knackered from that. It's only now do I understand how much being massively knackered from doing something like that can affect me. And I sat up because, I don't know, fixed gear bikes, you never stop pedaling and it's only one gear. And I remember reaching my back pocket of my cycle jersey, peeling a banana, eating that, throwing the peel away, and then thinking, golly, this smarts, as I was in a heap on the road. And that was my real moment where life turned left. And I think in some ways that gave me a lot of the pause for thought, a lot of change happening in life at that stage anyhow. I was getting divorced as well, which is always a mildly stressful experience. But yeah, it's...
But then you spent a lot of time on painkillers, bought a Porsche as a midlife crisis car, because it clearly was a midlife crisis car. So you had that for a bit, kind of thing. But with the bike ride, I mean, at least with the bike ride, because they cancelled the London to Brussels, Dave and I did Pembroke to Great Yarmouth, and you drove your car as support, kind of thing.
Support vehicle. So I don't remember
support
a
vehicle.
great deal of that now. You are
And I
finding
think looking back on that, your level of painkillers you're on for some of that, yeah.
handful. They're really weird. If you're taking the cocodamols, I think, or whatever, you're absolutely fine at the time. Your reactions, all this kind of stuff. I mean, my biggest concern was that this had healed enough to have a seatbelt over it, because you really wouldn't
Yeah.
want to have to stand on the brakes and then pop everything out. But yeah, I mean, you guys still did it. It was a pretty stunning achievement, and I don't think everybody realizes how challenging it can be to ride a fixed gear bike.
The worst bit was going down the hills in Wales because
So overall, I mean, Chris, we could talk for yonks, and I know you're busy,
yeah.
but it's in some ways chatting to you now has confirmed to me that I have never made a big deal of my MS because it was important to me not to consider it too much, because it was sort of, that way lie dragons. It's just
Well,
the less
you
that I
would,
could let it impede on me, the better.
but if somebody ever said to you, give it a little rest, or do this, or that might be because you might like you did that, but also the other thing, you would actually you'd get really, I'm tired, it's my MS, or with work and things like that. So saying people don't understand. So I think you have to realize that if you don't take any of the advice that people give you, because most people are giving it to you in the best intentions, not, oh, there, you poor little disabled boy kind of thing, because you don't appear, and that's the thing is, you do not appear to have a disability. And that's the thing, even as your brother, this whole period of time, you still go off and do more than a lot of people do. You did the South Downs Way and things like that, which is a huge achievement. There's lots of people can't do that at all kind of thing, but it's actually sort of sheer bloody mindedness of doing that. But I think, that's one thing, being your brother is, is very wary. And I think people often then sort of back off from most people's intentions are good,
That's what I say to other people, but it's very hard to follow one's own advice.
Yeah.
You're correct.
And I think the difference would be is, and I think it's probably different for people who see, somebody diagnosed with MS and then they end up in a wheelchair, or they end up having to sort of do a lot more stuff for them. And I think that would probably be a very different, it would be a different kind of thing to deal with, kind of thing. Because when
I'm softening
you tell somebody,
because if things keep going like they are, they'll be ringing you for lifts at some point.
I'm going to have a tail lift put on my company car.
No, I think in the meantime, it's just you can just give me a good shove towards the passenger seat and I'll collapse.
Oh, there's some fun. Yeah, I think you see some of the sort of electrified stuff these days. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Listen, I really appreciate you taking the time to abuse me for other people's benefit. Mostly, I got to say, I think you are largely right, and sometimes when you're tired doing something like cycling or whatever, and you're actually tired in the activity, when somebody offers you helpful advice and support, I think the MS makes me a lot snappier on reflection than I'd like to be. But it's just bugger off and leave me alone. I would turn around and say to other people, you've got to think about how and when to engage the person. Let's say they're not as prickly as I am, but how and when to engage the person, because there's times, certainly when I'm, shall we say, in the middle of it, that I don't appreciate any help or support because I'm so pissed off with it.
That's when people see it and want to offer you support. When you're walking around fine, people are less likely to sort of be concerned and want to offer you support. So I think there is that sort of thing is, it's a tricky one, and maybe you need to sort of say to them, look, now's not the time, but I'd like to have this conversation with you at a different time rather than please go away.
Absolutely, yeah. But even if I'm in please go away mode, then I love the way we're both being so polite, because this is but if I'm in please go away mode, that also means my brain is generally not even thinking about those other things. But Chris, before we go, it's just one thing I have to tell you that I learned in my email today. There's a new subscriber to the msguide.com, and it's Mum. So I'm sure that she's going to see this at some point.
Well, where you got some of your stubbornness from then.
Yeah, quite. So anyway, look, I really appreciate you taking the time, and we'll speak again soon, every other day generally, on the phone. All right, take care.
All right, take care. Bye.